if oil prices are higher, it affects a lot of industries. Please also do note that as oil prices are higher, it will increase inflation as well. And of course, depending on how they do it and the policy, how does this affect interest rates as well? So high gas, high inflation, generally speaking, is not good for the Philippines, considering that we are still in the midst of this pandemic. High gas, high inflation also. If interest rates get higher, of course, for those who like to buy bonds and get higher rates of return, it may be relatively good for them. But for those who are borrowing money, of course, higher rates is not something that's very attractive also for them. Hey guys, so I want to talk about the Philippine elections as well, because I know a lot of you have been asking about my take on all of this. And as you all know, this is a finance and investing YouTube channel, and there are a lot of things that we can't control. I can't control how other people will vote. I can't manipulate how people will actually think. I can't control how inflation will be. I can't control how the economy will be. There are a lot of things that I can't control. I don't know who will win this June. I can do my responsibility. I can vote. I can point people towards the right direction in terms of what my belief system is, also on how I will vote. But above and beyond that, there are a lot of things that are not in my control. The reason why I'm making this video is that a lot of you have been asking how will the stock market go, what will happen to it over the next few years. Please do notice that there's a lot of ways to be able to answer that question. Also, there's a lot of ways to be able to tackle it. First things first, I started investing over a decade ago. I'm 38 years old now, turning 39. But when I was starting, I was able to go through 2 elections in the Philippines. So when Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo ran for president, that was 2004. I was still in college at that time, so that doesn't count. I wasn't really tracking what was going on also at that particular moment in time. But I graduated from college 2005, took the board exam, worked 2006. A couple of months after that, I started investing already. First at equity funds, and you all know the story about that. From that time, I was able to somehow track at least 2 elections. One was the election of Noynoy Aquino in 2010, and then the other one was Rudy Duterte around the last 2016. You can interlace it after the elections happened, weeks and months after there was a fair election, weeks and months also after a clear decision also came out, the markets rallied, not just during Aquino's term, but also in Duterte's term. So the premise of those 2 elections was things were generally good. There was a clear decision and everyone accepted it as well. So from the previous elections, we saw movements up. That being said, allow me to also say this. We are now in April 2022. We have been 2 years past already, or at least 25 months already from the very first lockdown that happened. And up until now also, the economy still hasn't fully recovered. We're not in levels where we were in terms of the economy in 2019. There are industries that have done better. There are industries that have emerged. There are ways in certain sectors where other countrymen have started to earn more. But there are also people that have been badly hit, that their businesses got hit, and there are sectors still that are still aching up until now. So above and beyond, I guess, the election, everything still rides and falls on the effect of this entire lockdown and pandemic. I think we're in the latter stages of it already, because as you've seen, we've all been going out already over the past few weeks. So how fast other industries recover will play a big toll in it. But one thing also that I think people need to watch is what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, the entire war there, because please do notice, prior to the pandemic, we had trade war between China and the US. Then you add the pandemic, there was already a glut in terms of supply chain. That's why if you notice it, some of the iPhones were, they lack supplies, or there were supply chain bottlenecks that caused certain items to take longer to be delivered or transferred from one point to another. Then you had the Suez Canal incident. Then now you have also whatever's happening in Eastern Europe and in Russia, which has spiked the prices of oil, which also will hit certain things that Ukraine and Russia is also exporting, which would increase prices. So please do note this and look at it from that level, that if oil prices are higher, it affects a lot of industries. Please also do note that as oil prices are higher, it will increase inflation as well. And of course, depending on how they do it and the policy, how does this affect interest rates as well. So high gas, high inflation, generally speaking, is not good for the Philippines, considering that we are still in the midst of this pandemic. High gas, high inflation also if interest rates get higher, of course, for those who like to buy bonds and get higher rates of return, it may be relatively good for them. But for those who are borrowing money, of course, higher rates is not something that's very attractive also for them. It will discourage people also from borrowing. I think those are things to look at now, that it's not just fully centered on the Philippine election, but it's fully centered on what was happening over the past years and what's currently also happening right now outside the Philippines too. So you put that all together. But another thing to look at also from an economic perspective is during election season, there's higher spending. As you can see from the rallies, either it's spent by those organizing or those going to those rallies. People travel, people spend, people eat. That has a ripple effect also in the economy. So from an economic perspective, you have people spending money during rallies, which has a ripple effect also in the economy. So from a GDP perspective, it's good. And in a way, I forgot to mention this, the pillars of our economy, from remittances and the BPO industry, they're still there. The BPO industry, they've been relatively resilient even in the midst of the pandemic. And aside from the BPO industry, we also have our kababayan Filipinos who have been sending money like clockwork at very high rates still, even in the midst of the lockdowns. Remittances never stopped. So what was good prior to the pandemic, prior to the election, prior to the Russia-Ukraine war, was relatively there. I think those are things that have not changed. But again, sector-wise, there will be certain sectors that are hit. As we start to reopen, they're the ones that may rebound also. And as you can see, people have been starting to go to Boracay, people have been starting to travel once again, things like that. When you look at that in its fullest context, then okay, the ones that have been really bad at the start of the lockdowns, they're the ones that little by little, slowly, will have better revenue. But will it be back from 2019 levels? It's still early to say. I know I've been going to malls lately, since there's more options now also that pwede na lumabas eh. You can already go out, but we've been still ordering food from where we are. So there will be certain things that will still be relevant right now in 2022 that won't go back to the way it was, even if this entire pandemic boils over. So there are a lot of things that we don't control it. A lot of people who want to make forecasts also on where they think things will go. But I always say this, that focus on the things that you can control, meaning you can't control your effort, you can't control your savings, you can't control how you deploy capital, you can't control a lot of things. So we can hope for the best. We can hope that the one that you think is really good for the Philippines wins the election, but also you safeguard things also from your own. You save and invest, because whoever wins, they won't really save and invest for you. It's something that you have to do still on your own. How you also generate revenue, it's still on you. There's a lot of things that whoever wins can actually do, but there's a lot of things that they cannot do for you. So in this channel, the goal is to focus on what you can do, and what you can do is to be able to budget. What you can do is to be able to save. What you can do is to be able to do proper risk management. What you can do is, if you need to be at a certain place and that's where you can thrive and be the best version of yourself also, then you can do that as well. On the things that you can't control, you hope for the best and you do what you can. For the things that you can't control, you put every waking moment of your life so that certain part of your saving, investing, business life does very well, because that's something that you can measure. So there, I hope that this was something that was useful and helpful to all of you. This is Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, and God bless you.